The Art of Delayed Gratification, Sowing the Strength that Conquers Urgency. There is a subtle, almost imperceptible emptiness that settles in those who live at the mercy of, "I want it now." Even when everything seems within reach, the bottom of the chest continues to echo a sense of lack, as if the present were never enough to fill the space of expectation. You feel a tightness in your stomach, noticing that the simple act of waiting has become a constant discomfort, and every small victory escapes before there's time to savor it. This silent wound corrodes motivation and obscures hope, for the desire for instant gratification sticks to the heart like sand that insists on burying seeds before they can blossom. Seneca would paint this picture with the colors of wasted tragedy, comparing immediate appetite to the act of picking all the seeds from a tree and dying without enjoying its fruit. Every seed swallowed prematurely is a promise of an orchard that will never sprout, reminding us that true harvest demands patience, demands care, demands the surrender of time. And in this delay, resilient character is forged, one that doesn't let itself be swept away by haste, but anchors itself in the confidence that deep growth only happens when roots find firm ground. Epictetus whispers with his patient voice that it is not the reward itself, but the character forged in waiting that matters. In this silent polishing, delay reveals our intimate fiber. It exposes how much we are capable of enduring the tension of non-immediacy, of cultivating our own soul, while the fruit ripens under the invisible sun of perseverance. And now, feeling this inner calling reverberate in your body, which urgent impulse do you need to learn to flavor with time? The opportunity arises to recognize that the greatest act of courage is not to speed up the clock, but to trust in the patient art of sowing today to reap tomorrow. 1. The invisible pain of yesterday's deadline. There's a silent suffocation that lodges in the chest of those who live under the weight of due yesterday, as if every slowed second were another step towards failure. You feel your heart tighten when you realize that the to-do list grows faster than your breath to face it. And with each notification, a ripple of anxiety runs down your spine, reminding you that time races beyond your will. This frantic pace corrodes the joy of every achievement, for everything seems to demand extreme speed, pulverizing the sense of accomplishment even before it takes shape. At the center of this whirlwind lies hidden exhaustion, tense muscles, eyes burning under the weight of sleepless hours, a mind that hesitates to wake up because tomorrow is already knocking, demanding immediate end. It's like running on an endless treadmill, wishing to reach somewhere while the ground itself insists on spinning nonstop. And in this cycle of uninterrupted effort, the soul loses its rhythm, forgets the soft sound of its own breath, and convinces itself that value only exists in instant result, without realizing that this very result only gains meaning when savored calmly. Behind the unrestrained urgency, a deep desire for purpose pulsates, a yearning that goes beyond simply completing tasks, a call to feel that every effort is not just a ticking clock fading away, but the construction of something greater. This thirst for meaning reveals that when we are swallowed by haste, we let slip opportunities for learning, moments of connection, and the very growth that comes from patient waiting. And by recognizing this thirst, you find the starting point to break the vicious circle of due yesterday and reclaim the value of planting each gesture with attention. Stoicism reminds us that virtue does not manifest in a sprint, but in the constancy of daily cultivation. Just as a plant grows with small, repeated cares, delayed gratification demands consistency, demands presence, demands kindness to the process itself. By shifting your gaze from the clock to the soil where actions are planted, you discover that urgency loses its power to enslave, giving way to a serene motivation that blossoms at the right time, bringing the authentic flavor of a well-built harvest. 2. The misunderstood Stoic. Patience is not inertia. Some confuse the art of waiting with the act of doing nothing, as if patience were synonymous with immobility, freezing the will to act under the lens of inaction. You feel a weight in your chest watching months pass while a personal project insists on remaining on paper, and you conclude that waiting is a burden that paralyzes, when in reality, the virtue of Stoicism flourished in the daily care of small action. Seneca would warn that virtue flourishes not in the fertile soil of promises, but in the constancy of daily care. For it is the drops gathered day after day that water growth, not sudden enthusiasm that dissipates at the slightest breath of wind. In the rhythm of this teaching, recognizing that patience is not abandoning impulse, but redirecting it into daily gestures, brings relief to the tired heart. Every simple step, a paragraph written, a practical exercise repeated, a sincere conversation initiated, carries within it the strength of constancy, breaking the myth that waiting means giving up. By cultivating the discipline of feeding your purpose with small seeds of action, you learn that patience is serene movement, vibrant on the tranquil surface of waiting. And in this balance between impulse and rest, you discover a new way to prosper, not at the peak of haste, but in the calm rhythm of continuous progress. Patience ceases to be an obstacle and becomes the gentle soundtrack that accompanies each stage of the journey, reminding you that the true harvest is born from patient cultivation, where every moment of waiting strengthens the root of your dream. 3. When desire becomes an emotional trap. At a certain point, the desire for immediate reward transforms into an emotional trap as the mind, anxious for relief, abandons grand projects in favor of small victories that flash like lures on the digital horizon. You start a course with enthusiasm and, at the first difficulty, jump to another promise of quick learning. Instead of persevering in patient cultivation, you yield to the urgency of completing smaller tasks, answering messages, scrolling the feed, changing series like someone seeking sugar for thirst, only to discover that sugar does not quench the deep thirst for purpose. This incessant race after crumbs of pleasure transforms each day into scattered fragments, corroding the guiding thread that gives long-term meaning. The anxiety born from this pattern manifests in the body as a knot in the stomach, accelerated palpitations without apparent cause, and a restlessness that prevents the mind from resting. For it knows that instead of watering the tree you planted, you have been tearing off leaves and branches in search of instant flowers. When you yield to the temptation to postpone lasting effort for quick distraction, you reinforce the belief that true growth is unattainable, and this generates double frustration, that of not creating roots and that of blaming yourself for not sustaining your own dream. And now, a sharp question echoes. Have you been fleeing the discomfort of growth for fear of facing the delay that every profound process requires? In this instant of transparency, you find the opportunity to break the cycle and redirect your desire to the fertile ground of the long term, resuming the calm rhythm of delayed gratification that, although it requires patience, builds lasting and true fruit. 4. Stoic ritual, the invisible progress marker. At the break of each morning, hold a simple notebook and write a single line. Yesterday's small advance that, though unnoticed, changed something in you. It could be an attitude of calm in the face of difficult news, the moment you chose to continue despite fatigue, or the kind word you offered someone. Internal milestones that don't appear in spectacular results but strengthen your intimate fiber. This act of recording serves as a discreet anchor, reminding you that the journey is not measured only in great leaps, but also in almost imperceptible steps which, accumulated, form a solid ladder. In the whirlwind of tasks and deadlines, this invisible marker reduces discouragement by rescuing the perception of constant progress. As you leaf through the notebook pages, you rediscover a trail of small victories you wove unknowingly, reinforcing the conviction that every effort, however small, is fertilizer for the inner soil. And on the night that follows the day of cultivation, return to the record, reread the lines written in the soft light of the moon or the bedside lamp, and feel the warmth of gratitude blossom in your chest, confirming that daily patience sculpts character, carving the soul with respect for the slow process. This nightly ritual closes the day's cycle with a song of hope, realigning your focus with your greater purpose and preparing your mind for new planting. When clouds of doubt threaten to obscure the horizon, simply open the notebook and contemplate the invisible record of advances that, together, form the bridge to the delayed harvest. This is how, without haste, you strengthen the muscles of patience and discover that the true art of delayed gratification is born from the constancy of small steps, marked and celebrated in silence. E5. Revealing metaphor, the dammed river. Imagine a serene river that flows freely until it encounters a dike hidden beneath the earth, where its waters accumulate in silence, forming a potential source of pure energy. When the floodgate opens, concentrated gush turns turbines and moves machines with a force that would never arise burst current of the river. Such is the power of delayed gratification. By damming our impulses, we store internal energy that, at the right moment, converts into concentrated momentum, capable of generating solid and lasting results, instead of dissipating in the haste of the present. When satisfied by the immediate, the river of our desires tends to run dry, leaving only trickles of satisfaction that quickly dry up under the sun of routine. But when we cultivate the art of waiting, we erect internal dams, small reservoirs of discipline and focus that contain the flow of anxiety and transform every drop of will into a precious reserve for the future. By recognizing this process, you realize that delayed gratification is not deprivation, but an investment in the volume of energy that will remain available when truly needed. And now, with the gentle sound of this metaphor echoing in your chest, the decisive question arises: what internal reservoir can you start building today so that tomorrow your gush of effort will be released with the concentrated force of a dammed river, reaping the virtue of time? Seneca reminds us that it is not fleeing from time, but honoring the seasons of the Spirit that makes us fruitful. And this lesson resonates like a gentle song traversing your soul, reminding you that every moment of waiting is fertile ground for patience to flourish. When you embrace delayed gratification, you cease to be a hostage to immediate impulse and become a gardener of your own virtue, watering the seeds of character until they grow into strong trees capable of bearing abundant fruit. Marcus Aurelius, in his Serenity, would affirm that every moment of waiting is a silent test of our integrity, revealing that the long journey refines the soul and strengthens the heart. The deepest victory does not come with the fanfare of quick conquest, but with the constant whisper of one who perseveres in projects that only mature under the gentle wind of patience. True delayed gratification does not postpone happiness, but allows it to ripen in its own time, teaching that the value of the harvest lies in the quality of the roots you chose to cultivate. And now, before the orchard of your life, the question that seals this moment of reflection echoed: if you were a cultivator of yourself, what fruit would you choose to let grow in its natural time?